for your painters, it's really important that you have some sort of motivational structure for them in order to get them to produce quicker. Because if they're not producing quickly, if they're just like, you're just paying them either by the hour or by the day, like say 20, 25, 30 bucks an hour, or you're paying them like, 200, 250 bucks a day, something like that. And no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they get done, they're always going to get paid that same 200, 250, $300 a day. This is not a good way to run a business. Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. Hey guys, this episode has been generously sponsored by Drip Jobs. If you're looking to save time, close more jobs, Drip Jobs is the CRM built specifically for painting contracts. You can manage your leads, automate your follow-up, build proposals, and send invoices all in one place. And with powerful tools like production rates and job costing, it will allow you to work smarter, not harder. So I really recommend trying Drip Jobs to see how it can help streamline your business. And we have a link for you in the description. Check out the special offer for this podcast now. What's up, everyone? Michael Hickman here, founder of PainterGrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. Now, today I have a topic that, again, like many of my topics, is very near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited to get into and hopefully get a different angle than you've heard before, a little bit more nuance. And that is the concept of getting more productivity and production and profit out of each one of your painters through a profit sharing system or pay for production / piece rate type of payment system. So I do want to get into that and hopefully find some new nuance you've never heard before that's either going to give you the desire or the guts to take the leap and give it a try or test it out with your crews, or at least to or maybe even to help you improve on what you're already doing with the door-to-door system, or sorry, not the door-to-door, with the compensation piece rate system that you currently are using in your business. Now, before I get into that, I just want to make a quick plug because we are hosting our mastermind in a couple of weeks in Orlando. So if you're a painting contractor in Orlando or in the Orlando greater area or in Florida, and you want to have a life-changing 2-day conference that is going to absolutely crush 2025 for you, then you need to be here. We're doing a flash sale for the next 7 days. We're discounting tickets. Instead of $2,000, we're discounting them all the way to $500. So we're doing a 7-day flash sale. We actually had so much demand that we had to get a bigger room. So we have about 20 more spots. As of recording this, it's probably going to be like 8 or 9 spots by the time you hear this. And just for the next 7 days, we're dropping the price from $2,000 down to $497. So if you're in Florida or in our Orlando area and you want to come check out this event, even if you're not in Orlando and you want to come, just like check out the link. We're going to have the link at the bottom as well as the coupon code to get that price. Or if you have any questions about it, you can shoot me an email directly and I will reply to you, Mike@paintergrowth.com. Would love to have some more great, open-minded, growth-oriented contractors there to help us round out the event. So with that being said, let's jump into our topic for today, which is paying by piece rate. Now, why would someone want to pay piece rate to begin with? Right. A lot of times when a painter is working or anyone is working on a job site, if they're going to make the same amount of money if they put in a 3 out of 10 effort than if they put in a 10 out of 10 effort, then human nature is to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money, right? That's what we're doing as business owners, right? We're trying to do the least amount of work and get the most amount of money. Sometimes it takes a lot of hard work to get to that point. But for your painters, it's really important that you have some sort of motivational structure for them in order to get them to produce quicker. Because if they're not producing quickly, if you're just paying them either by the hour or by the day, like say 20, 25, 30 bucks an hour, or you're paying them like, 200, 250 bucks a day, something like that. And no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they get done, they're always going to get paid that same 200, 250, $300 a day. This is not a good way to run a business. What's going to happen here is your painters are going to slow down. They're not going to think process oriented. They're not going to think about production. They're not going to think about getting the project done quickly so they can move on to the next one. They're just going to show up, paint what they can, go home, come back the next day, and that is it. Now, for human nature to increase this productivity, you need to tie their goals and their financial outcomes to the profitability and the productivity of each project. Now, there's a few different ways to do this. It's different if you're using subs versus employees. Now, I'm going to start with employees, and then we'll go into subs. The main difference, just high level, is that if you're paying an employee a piece rate piece rate project, it's going to be, you're going to talk to them in terms of how many hours the project is. All right, John, this is a 100-hour project. I'm going to pay you for 100 hours. So if you get done in 80 hours, you're still going to get paid for 100. So instead of getting 25 bucks an hour, you just take 25 divided by 80 times 100. Oh, sorry, 25 divided by 100 times 80. Is that how it is? I can't remember. I'm just having trouble with my math right now. Divided by 80 times 100. Yeah, so instead of the 25 an hour, if they were to complete that budget, that would be 31.25 an hour. So an employee, a W-2, wants to know how many hours the job is worth. So what their total potential hours are going to be, and then how much they ended up making or earning per hour. Whereas a subcontractor, they're looking at the total percentage of the job. So you're going to give them 40% to 45% of the entire project to complete it. And they're going to get a little bit more because they're bringing their own tools and they have their own liability insurance, and they're also able to bring their own guys. Whereas your employees are not allowed to sub out their own work. And you want to keep your in-house employees' labor percentage of the total job closer to 35%. So subs in general are going to be about 10% more, but that 10% more you're really paying for with subs in terms of job site management. So not one is better than the other. They're just different depending on your business, your area, who you have access to, your leadership style, things like that. Now, if you have employees, you can do a full straight up piece rate system that I'm going to tell you about here, or you can go into a quasi bonus structure where you still pay them hourly, but depending on how quickly they finish the project and with what level of quality, they will unlock a certain tranche of a bonus. And I'll go into that as well. Now, for piece rate with an employee, how it basically works is, number one, you need to be able to estimate your projects based on number of hours. If you're not good at that, or if you don't use a system where you're estimating hours, you should probably use something like Drip Jobs' production rates, or we have interactive estimating tools like spreadsheets and stuff that allow you to get your number of hours based on each part of the project. And what we like to do is build a project plan for every single project for our painters. Eventually, your job site leads or your production managers are going to be creating these plans for you, or even your sales reps. But basically, if it's a 100-hour project, we want to know that, the upstairs is 15 hours, the upstairs bathroom is 4 hours, the main floor is 25 hours, the kitchen is 6 hours, the basement is whatever. So you can see on your granular level how many hours the walls are for, how many hours the prep is for, how many hours the trim is for, how many hours each room is for. Because then you can start setting goals for your painters instead of trying to knock out a 100-hour project in 80 hours. So you set, between a 10 and 12-hour goal for each painter per day. It's like, okay, John, today we are going to get the bathroom, the kitchen, and all of the trim upstairs done, or whatever, right? And say that's going to add up to 12 hours of production. So if we get 12 hours of production done today, 12 hours tomorrow, 12 hours the next day, that's going to be 36 hours of production that you're going to get done in 24 hours. And so if you're paying them 25 bucks an hour, divided by 24 hours times 36 hours, instead of making the $25 an hour that you're paying them, they're actually going to earn $37 an hour, because they got that project done that much faster. They got done 36 hours of production done in 24 hours. And then you need to reinforce it and tell them how much money they made, so that they know and they internalize it. The really cool thing about this is that your labor rate, the percentage that you're paying out for labor as a cost total, as a percentage of the total job, will stay the same. So if you know that your budget is 36%, and if you pay out 100 hours at 25 bucks, so if you pay out, let's say 100 hours at 25 bucks an hour, that's 2,500 with your other aspects on top of it. I usually like to add 13% to your hourly rate, with all of your taxes and incentives and whatnot. So that would be $2,800. And so if that is 36% of the job, that's going to be a $7,847. So $7,800 job. Now, if you have a $7,800 job and it's 100 hours and they get it done quicker, you still pay them that full 36%, right? But they're making more per hour because they're getting it done sooner. Now, job planning is the really important part, to make sure that your painters have an understanding of their duties, of how to complete the job quickly and on time. What we've noticed after working with nearly 1,000 painting contractors, literally we've almost worked with 1,000 painting, we're in the 900s now, 1,000 painting contractors. We've noticed that a lot of people don't know how to produce a job efficiently. They just go in and they just start painting. Maybe they'll start in the main floor and they'll go upstairs and they'll go downstairs and they'll do trim and they'll whatever. But you need to have a methodological way to approach a home, both an interior and an exterior, and you need to be able to teach your painters how to produce these quickly. And it helps when you have your hourly breakdowns of each room, of each substrate, broken down, so that your painters can create these daily and weekly plans so that they can stay on track. That way, if a budget doesn't get beat, then it's a lot easier to go back and say, okay, let's look at this full budget. What happened? Where did we go wrong? Was this enough budget for the bathroom? Was this enough budget for the kitchen? Was this enough budget for the basement? Oh, it turns out that the homeowner was adding scope and you didn't tell us, right? We clearly said on the agreement that the laundry room was not included, but you guys painted it. That took an extra 4.5 hours. That's why you went over budget. So if you have that type of job plan and they're keeping track of their hours on a daily basis and creating these daily goals, it's going to be a lot easier to stay accountable and empower your painters to hit and achieve their hourly goals. Because piece rate only works if your painters are motivated by it and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They understand how to win, right? Now, the other way that you can, and sorry, just before I go on to the other way, it's really important that, yeah, they do win early on. And I would say this is the best way to do it, is just to get started and try it out. And you give your projects, your painters, a few early on projects. The first couple of projects need to be huge slam dunks, big wins that they can easily make a lot of money on. And then you do an audit of those projects after, tell them how much money they made, and really figure out, how they were able to succeed. And now we're going to carry that to the next project and the next project and the next project, because they need to be bought in to the compensation plan. Now, when you're introducing a compensation plan like this to your painters, you want to make sure that you're giving them the reasons that you're wanting to go on piece rate is so that you can pay them more money, right? Everyone wants to make more money. If you ask your painters, hey, are you making enough money? Would you like to make more money? Great, you're making 25, you want to make 35. Here's how you can do it. You can produce quicker, you can get this much production done, and we can easily pay you more money. But we need to switch to this other comp structure so that we share a little bit of the risk, but the bonus is that you get the upside. So if we produce twice as fast, you get paid twice as much. How does that sound? Cool. So get them enrolled and then test out a few projects that they're going to win on, and then roll it out across the organization. The other thing that you can do with painters is a bonus structure based on how quickly they get the project done without having to calculate the piece rate system. So it's similar, but it's just going to be a bit different. So if you say it's a 100-hour project and they get it done in 80 hours, you can create a tiered system for the dollar amount of bonus or percentage of the bonus. So if you beat the budget by 10%, you guys are going to get a 10% bonus. If you guys beat the budget by 20%, you get a 20% bonus. If you beat the budget by 30%, you get a 30% bonus, right? So this is ways that you can still pay them hourly and they get to still participate in bonuses for getting the projects done quickly. And then you can add another, kick at the end of it for quality. So if you also get a 5-star review, you get an extra $50 or something like that, right? The important thing to note on a piece rate system, on any piece rate system, is that if there are touch-ups, they are responsible. Your painters are responsible to go back and do the touch-ups themselves. And this is unpaid time to do touch-ups, because the painters should be doing a walkthrough with the homeowner before they leave. They need to be taking ownership of the walkthrough of the project, because if they're the ones producing the work and they're there, they need to be able to look the homeowner in the eyes and say, this is the best I can do. This is the project that you're getting. This is the result, instead of them leaving and then you or your production manager coming back and talking to them about talking to the homeowner about the project, and then you having to be the middleman between the painters and the project and the homeowners, right? You don't want that. You want the painters to get sign off, to potentially even collect the payment so that they can get the 5-star review, get the payment, and be responsible for touch-ups. Now, those are kind of the two ways, is the bonus structure or the piece rate. Now, when it comes to subs, it's a lot more simple, right? Subs is a lot more simple because you're already paying them a fixed amount to complete the project. Ideally, you're keeping this below 50 or around 50%, including materials. So if you can keep it about 40% for the labor and then 10 to 14% for the material, that's going to leave you at 50 to 54% cost and 46 to 50% gross profit. So it is going to be a little bit less profitable to use subs in general, but subcontractors typically do take on a bit more responsibility. They should be managing the job site. They should be having their own tools. They should be picking up paint. They should be bearing a little bit more risk, taking on a bit more responsibility. That's why they're able to make a bit more money. Now, when you're bringing on subs, this isn't really the topic of today's call, or today's podcast, but I do want to remind you that when you are bringing on subs, don't trust them. initially in terms of their capability. You can trust them, but you need to verify them. So if they say they've been painting for 10 years, fine, that's great. Show me, right? So the first project that you give a sub, I expect you to be on site the whole day, because they're not just going to paint. They need to paint the way that you paint. How do they put their drop cloths? Where do they put their tools? What do they do first? How do they look at the job? How do they structure it? What types of prep and painting process do they use? Do they do a first coat and then patch holes? Or do you prefer that they patch holes and then do a first coat? Do they use primer on patching holes? Or do you prefer that they just use wall paint, right? Do they caulk all the baseboards? Like, you need to make sure that they have the skills needed to represent your company, because from the homeowner's perspective, they are your company. They're an extension of your company. When they hire you, they're hiring you. They don't care that they're subcontractors. So you, as the employer, as the main person getting the contract, need to directly verify that your subcontractors possess all of the skills that you tell the homeowners that you have. And that requires you to verify it on site and be with them on site and let the contractors know, let the subs know that you are going to be giving them advice and giving them feedback and making sure that they're producing the project in the way that you want it done, not in the way that they've done it in the past. And if they're resistant to that change, then they're probably the wrong subcontractors. This is an expectation that you need to make during the interview process and hiring process with the subs, is that they're going to paint your way if they want your contracts. Okay. So we talked about piece rate. We talked about how to do job planning. We talked about the percentages that your jobs need to be in terms of profitability and labor percentages, whether you're using employees or subs. We talked about how to be efficient and how to train your painters to be efficient. And then we talked about your subcontractors and making sure that your subs and your painters both have ownership of the projects and are doing the walkarounds. So what I encourage you guys to do is to just try it out. If you've never done piece rate before, I have seen painting companies literally double their rate of production by implementing a piece rate system. Don't be scared. Don't be nervous. You can do it. And if you want my help and my coach's help personally for the lowest price ever, $500 for the next 7 days, come join us at the mastermind. Link and coupon code is in the description. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.